So what was your experience like with math growing up?
So I always knew that I was like kind of into math and like the idea of like math as it related to real world things, but like math as like an abstract concept in school was not my jam at all. And my mom, being an educator, was like very keen that I would like learn the most possible, right?
Yeah.
And so I would test well on like math, whatever aptitude tests, but then we got to ninth grade and they were like, you have to go into pre-algebra. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I know what algebra is and I don't want to do the algebra. And so therefore I don't want to do the pre-algebra.
Right. I've seen
like,
what I
don't
needed
want
to see.
I've seen, I can see into the future and this is not a part of my life.
Right.
And they were like, well, this is what we want you to do. I was like, this is a terrible, terrible idea. I was just telling all the adults in my life. So pre-algebra kind of got through it. Algebra really, really, really started to struggle. Got through it, but by the time I got into like 11th and 12th grade, it was like pre-calculus or geometry and calculus stuff, and I was like, I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm out. I went, instead of going to math class, at some point I was like, I'm just going to go have breakfast with my friends at another high school.
You went to a different high school.
I went to a different high school,
not
and
a
started
restaurant.
To hang out. I just like would go like hang out with my friends, and like it was bad. It was bad. Like I just gave up. I actually had to repeat class to like graduate. Like I had to go to summer school to get out of. And so my experience was like I got forced into a track that I knew going in I couldn't do. And I think, but now like I'm really good with like what I would call business math, like math that is applicable to my life in some way. I'm great at like I've been a line producer and a production accountant, right? So if any of my math teachers were like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it's like related to a thing. Like it's like this math relates to the real world in a way that I can understand." And I think math anxiety, in particular for young women and girls, it certainly exists for guys, but for young women and girls, there's still not a lot of really great visible role models of women using math in a way that is like relatable to your daily life. And I would say that is the single best way. Like your friend with her daughter, if there were, and this is a tall order, and I realize like this is like a lot of thinking and bandwidth, but if there's a way to take whatever the math is that she's learning and like put a container on it or a skin on it that makes it relatable to her life, to her life as a child, so that she suddenly can like say, oh, we're not just talking abstractly about this and that. We're talking about, something that relates to her allowance or the number of hours she's allowed to use social media, and like using that as the basis for the math education. That is very effective, but it is like, it's a lot of work to figure out, how to kind of like reframe math in that way.
Yeah.
But that is the kind of work we try and do, like as sort of like, educator adjacent communicators.
Yeah.
That's the term I just
No, that's
that's
actually a great description of what you do. Like that's exactly it.
But that's what we try to do, is we try to do that heavy lifting. Right. And so, I mean, that's where the show Who Smarted the Who Smarted podcast came from. Was during the pandemic, parents were every parent was a homeschooler. Yeah. Really, I mean, yes, you had school on the video, but like in the sense, everyone became a homeschooler. And so we created Who Smarted, particularly for elementary school kids, to help them get excited about these topics that they were probably going to struggle with, and to make it a little easier so that when you got to the curriculum, they were like interested and curious. So, because we just realized like that's a lot. Like people are like, well, how come your methods aren't being used in a classroom? Like, because teachers can barely like do the checklist of like the curriculum, getting the kids settled in, grading papers, like all of the back office stuff. And then like, oh, they also have like these things called their own lives, like outside of the classroom. So no, teachers cannot be expected to like come up with like unique learning methods for 30 kids in every classroom. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and I think like what you said about making it personal, that also is going to be very personalized to the kid. And so sometimes what I would be trying to find something that was going to really hit with some kids, I would completely miss the other group. So like when I was teaching poetry, I would try and find, some songs, and sometimes I'd be like, okay, let's do a Taylor Swift song and we're going to analyze the imagery and all of that. And that worked with some, but then I have these other kids kids over there that are like, this is like, I hate Taylor Swift. Like, why are you making us listen to this? And so I feel like that's also a part of it where it's like trying to make it relevant is going to make it relevant for this little section. And then you're going to miss like a lot of the other kids. Thank you so much for watching. Want more of Those Who Can't Do in your life? Well, you can watch the full episode right now. Just click on that little box over there. You see it? Right down there? There it is. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Okay, bye.